Sup with it. I said, that's how you doing? Sup with it, yeah. Sup with it. Y'all supposed to say, when I say what's up with it, you supposed to say, what's up? What's up? What's up? How you doing? Yeah. Y'all dead. Y'all have to liven up.
Need more coffee.
Yeah, more coffee, more donut.
Well, good morning. My name is Candace Elder. I'm founder and executive director of the East Oakland Collective, and it is a pleasure to be here talking in front of y'all this morning. In case you don't know what we do racial and economic equity work in deep East Oakland, which is to us High Street to the San Leandro border, and that's what we define as probably one of the most under-resourced and underserved areas of Oakland. Okay, is that better? Okay, awesome. And so what racial and economic equity work looks like for us is civic engagement and leadership, making sure that East Oakland residents are involved in any planning, political process on behalf of their communities, on behalf of their neighborhoods, and on behalf of their families. So that is also building, resident power and leadership development. We also do economic empowerment. We have the East Oakland Susu Lending Circle program, which is a non-traditional banking system to also build trust amongst our low-income brothers and sisters, and also we combine that with financial literacy workshops. And what started off as actually a community service project of feeding, providing food and hygiene kits for unhoused brothers and sisters in Oakland turned into a whole third focus area for us. Totally was not planned, but you got to shift and move depending on what's going on in the city. So we also do homeless services and solutions, and we do everything from our widely popular Feed the Hood program, which we are on number 11, which is June 23rd. And to date, we have provided over 20,000 lunches and hygiene kits and provided those to over 3,000 unduplicated unhoused residents across Oakland. We're also a part of HOG, which is the Homeless Advocacy Working Group, where we meet here at City Hall every second and fourth Tuesday. And that's kind of like an all-comprehensive coalition of everyone and orgs who are invested in making impact in the homelessness crisis. And we probably serve on all the coalitions you can think of in Oakland and even at the county level in regards to homelessness in Oakland. So I can spend all day talking about all the stuff that we do and part of the coalitions that we're a part of. I'm just going to name two really quickly, and that's East Oakland Neighborhoods Initiative, which is a partnership of 13 community-based organizations in the city of Oakland. And it's been a crazy process. I don't know if Keita's going to touch upon that in her talk about engaging East Oakland residents. And they're also a partner with the East Oakland Black Cultural Zone. And we're looking at preserving art, culture, history, Black people, Black space, small businesses, entrepreneurship in deep East Oakland.
Cool, thanks for that, Candace. So again, I'm Keita Price. You can call me Keita. I'm the Urban and Regional Planning Officer for the East Oakland Collective, and I mainly work on a lot of the economic empowerment initiatives and neighborhood planning initiatives in the East Oakland Collective. And so one way that we honor the cultural and local expertise in our neighborhood is actually being on the ground and doing neighborhood level and working on neighborhood level planning initiatives, transportation specific, climate adaptation, worked on our resilient by design, and also the East Oakland neighborhood initiatives, which is focused on social, climate, and equity justice in East Oakland. And so, yeah, since we are a small and mighty staff looking to expand, we enlist in a lot of coalitions and collaborations to expand our reach. And being only 2.5 years new on the scene, we really believe in hyper collaboration to break silos. Breaking silos and not duplicating work on what's already done is kind of our specialty. So even though we small and mighty, we've been moving fast because we're really just trying to fill in gaps and also do some things that haven't been done before. And so with that said, one thing that hasn't been done before is this EONI, we call it, this neighborhood initiative, where we're working collaboratively with the planning department. We both co-applied to a state grant, got number one in the state. Unfortunately, bittersweet because we got the worst air quality we're part of the worst top 5% of air quality in the state. So that was cool, but kind of bittersweet. So yeah, we're working together at the first time of an onset on a project, neighborhood level planning. We're focused on 6 neighborhoods in East Oakland right now. Coliseum, Melrose, North Stonehurst, Sabrani Park, Brookfield, Columbia Gardens, and a few more that's associated to those. And so, yeah, at the neighborhood level, really trying to reach people where they at, and that's the way it's culturally relevant to them. We started with kind of like workshop things like this, have people in a room like, but it don't work. We kind of fatigue with community engagement in that kind of way and order. So to get more culturally relevant to our demographic, we started popping up at corner stores, popping up at different churches, popping up at youth centers, wherever people was already at that we can engage specifically.
The street corner.
Right, yeah, the street corner. And so, yeah, we definitely do that. On the economic side, we are, as Candace mentioned, a part of the East Oakland Black Culture Zone. And the East Oakland Black Culture Zone has been a collaboration over the past 3 years, looking to preserve and enhance the Black life in Oakland. And after we've been on the scene for Black Culture Zone for about a year, and since then, we've kind of been leading toward the entity formation of a CDC to be comprehensive and basically take care of Black people in East Oakland in a way that haven't been done by the existing CDCs and other resources in East Oakland. Again, trying to bridge those gaps and really be specifically targeted towards our population that's really struggling. And so, yeah, within the East Oakland Black Culture Zone, we're looking to do a lot of strategies like leverage the opportunity zones to acquire certain business investments and acquire and buy and hold maybe certain properties so that we can actually implement the investments that we want to see, that we've been engaging people and hearing from within our community engagement sessions and so forth. Yeah, sorry, it's so much to say, but I'm gonna go ahead and let Nick talk a little bit more and we can circle back if there's any more questions to go deeper.
So my name is Nick Houston, and I am the Community Engagement Officer for the EOC, and I'm also the Director of Feed the Hood. Like Candace mentioned, we started Feed the Hood as just a community service project, and it took us all the way into this area of work that we didn't see that we were going to get into. Our first Feed the Hood, official Feed the Hood, I think it was about 30 people. Feed the Hood 3, we had about 350 volunteers. So as you can imagine, that kind of like shocked the hell out of us because we didn't know how to manage 350 people. But now we're at Feed the Hood 11, and we actually have it together to where I think it was Feed the Hood 9, we had about 550 volunteers. I'm saying all that to say that Feed the Hood is this thing that kind of catches people, kind of catches the minds and spirits of people to where they could do direct action, to where they could actually see what they're doing make a difference. Part of that is, and part of the design of Feed the Hood is to make sure people get to see the people that they're actually providing things for. That puts a personal face on that lunch and that hygiene kit that they're actually passing to somebody. And what we also found is that where the biggest impact happen is when they meet these people, they see people. They see smiles, they see spirits, they see, moreover, they see the impact of legislation that's been happening in the city that actually exacerbates and actually causes this problem that we call homelessness. And they get to see that the face of homelessness, overwhelmingly 70+% is Black. That's not an accident. I know we may think that, or a lot of us may think that people put themselves in this position, but there are legislation and laws in place that have been going on for years that has created this problem that we're trying to fix on our own level. And what I will speak to with that and go back to how we actually do our community engagement is when we go out to talk to our community, we don't just go out when we want something from them. That's a mistake that a lot of people make when they're going out engaging folks. You don't just go out and say, hey, come to my event. Because if you don't establish that relationship with people, you'll never see them at your events. You'll never see them in places where you call yourself wanting to help them and give them something if you don't have a relationship with them. So we spend a lot of time in the neighborhoods that we serve. Our office is in the neighborhood that we serve. We live in the neighborhoods we serve. My mother still lives in the neighborhood we serve. I walk the streets randomly just to talk to people, just so they could see a face to our organization and get to know us, even though it's the neighborhood I'm from. Now it's an organization that I belong to, so I want them to connect my face to my organization to resources. So community engagement for us is about relationship and nothing else. So like they mentioned, we go to street corners. We go to places where people may see people as undesirable, but we see them as extensions of ourselves. So we go talk to them, we go sit with them. I'm personally am guilty of going to buy pizza and going out to street corners and sitting on those street corners and talking to people. I used to take out my little portable grill, go to homeless encampments and grill and talk to people. It's so much so to the point where they ask us, when are you guys coming back? When's the next Feed the Hood? Can I help? We have unsheltered people that ask all the time, can I come help? Because we've developed a relationship with these people. So that in itself, like I mentioned, is the key to successful community engagement. Even if they don't come out the first time, they don't come out the second time. They're gonna know you, they're gonna know the person you are, and they're gonna feel like, I need to go see what's happening. Moreover, we do our outreach, we do our services in a way that we take it to the people. You have to meet people where they are. We found that it creates a barrier when you set up something in a stationary place and say, hey, we have this for you, we want you to come get it. Not to, people don't take into consideration that you're talking to people that may not have money, may not have transportation, may not have any resources, but you're saying, hey, I got something for you, come get it. It's a little arrogant that we found. So we take stuff to people. Feed the Hood is designed to where we take lunches and hygiene kits to every single encampment we can. We found that if you're really serious about getting people resources, you take it to them. We're fortunate enough to have the means to do it, so why not do it? So I can go on a whole other tangent with that, and we don't have enough time. But if you guys have any other questions or comments, feel free to ask.
Before we go into questions, I wanted to mention one of our, as Candace mentioned, our economic program, the East Oakland Susu Lending Circle. And so one of our initiatives is to empower our East Oakland residents to be more financially literate and to just have more access to traditional or non-traditional means of money to participate in the economy, to thrive and not just survive. And so the East Oakland Susu Lending Circle, anybody know what Susu means? You can say yes. What does it mean? Yes, thank you. What's your name? Mahasa, thank you so much. So Susu is the West African tradition of pretty much doing what this young woman just said, but it has different names across the globe. Central America has a different name for it. I think in India there's different names for it. So it's a non-traditional but traditional thing that's done across different cultures, but not used as much here in the U.S. By African Americans because East Africans and other people are using it here, and that's why they're still thriving in ways that we're necessarily not economically. And so learning from them, working together, we come up with the East Oakland Susu Lending Circle, and so we basically piloted a cohort of 12 EOC members to come together and lend monthly, as Candace said, around a program to come together and really try to get more comfortable to talk about money. In the Black community, it's hard to even talk about your finances and issues, so to get help for it is sometimes, you feel like it's no help because you're not willing to even say what you need. So the point is to come together and lend. There's $100 a month, goes to a pot. It was 12 of us, so one person get that $1,200 a month. In the beginning, we came together, convened. We love breaking bread. Again, that's the way how we culturally meet people. Always feed them, break bread. So we all came together, talked about our financial kind of situations, and drew numbers. And Nick actually drew the first number to get the pot first. But again, we're supposed to be here to try to help each other be more comfortable, around money and help who's in need. And so within the group, it was actually my best friend who needed the money right away. She was getting kicked out and needed a deposit for a spot. In the Bay Area, deposits are crazy. And so basically, Nick gave her the first number. And so she was able to get in her deposit, lived in Alameda for some second, got displaced out of Oakland, lived in Alameda off that deposit, and is now my roommate and living back in East Oakland. And so she was able to do that because Nick gave her that first. And if she didn't get it first, she would have kind of been struggling. And so that's just a component of the trust building and what the programming is for. The Lending Circle is actually done and provided by a third-party platform called Mission Asset Fund, and it was made for actually the immigrant Latinx population, because they were traditionally kind of not allowed to participate in certain bank systems and things like that. And so we kind of informally been using their platform, not partnering, but just using their platform in a way that we can help our program. And so also lastly in our program, we bring service providers to come, any kind of service providers that this cohort said that they wanted to have, whether it's home buyer assistance, whether it's more financial literacy, whatever. We do a pre-survey to see what these cohort members really want to get more information on. And so based on that, we put certain people in front of them monthly to give them more information about that. And sometimes we just come together and convene that month and just talk about what's been going on to check in on the process. But yeah, I'll stop right there. And that's our East Oakland Susu Linen Circle program, looking to really scale that up. Yeah, so hope you all enjoyed.
Awesome. Thank you, Keita and Nick. I wanted to call everyone's attention to that picture. To this picture, because it kind of symbolizes like our stance on engaging residents in East Oakland. This picture was taken at one of the Make It Yours cultural sessions. I saw Roberto will walk by here. I know his office is over there somewhere, in which we kind of essentially hijacked. So we kind of believe that if you come into our neighborhood, residents and leaders should be at the table to help plan those discussions. And you're most likely to have more engagement if the people leading it look like the people who actually live there, right? So we hijacked, we caught wind of it was happening in East Oakland. Okay, we hijacked it, talked to the consultants. We kind of advised them. We showed up this day in our finest attire, and then we didn't know at that time, but they asked us to facilitate. So that morning, we had all EOC members who, majority of us are East Oakland residents. We facilitated, and I think it was a awesome experience, and it shows really how, meet people where we're at. We always took the stance that not everybody can come to City Hall. Not everybody even has a privilege, and there's also transportation barriers. There's all type of stuff that kind of prevent people to showing up at council meetings or these subcommittee meetings. But so you have to go to where people are if you really want them to engage them. So from EOC's inception, that's the stance that we have always taken, and that's why we do a lot of community engagement projects actually with the City of Oakland and various departments, because we're like, okay, you're gonna come to us, and we're gonna have it at the most hood spot we can find in venues that are accessible to people, and they can easily get there. And yes, there's different components that should be included when you engage residents from underserved communities, like food. So we always feed people. Like we don't charge for events and stuff like that, and we always try to find the funding for food. Childcare is important. Translation is important. And even if if for our org events that we can't afford childcare, we say people bring your kids, let them run around. Like we think that these community meetings, these events where residents are lending their input and their expertise of what's going on in their neighborhoods, kids should be at. Keita has definitely been good at, Keita and Nick have been good at engaging youth. So even adding a special component to that community meeting, to that forum, where youth can actually be involved in planning, and they can do their own maps and, stuff like that. And, there's tons of youth who are engaged, in our Feed the Hood program as well. We have entire schools, and I think next week we have a youth group from Oregon coming down, who want to have, we're going to give them some cultural expertise, and then we're going to engage them in the community service project. So just taking those type of considerations, because being civically involved is a privilege. It's for people who have the time to do it, who have the resources to do it, and don't have extra barriers. Because if you're worried about a roof over your head, the safety of your children and your families, how you're going to eat, it's less likely that you're going to be in this meeting about bike lanes, coming through your neighborhood, even though you might care. And then people think, oh, well, not a lot of people showed up, they don't care. It's like, no, we have to make it, make it accessible so that they care. And also, doing traditional meetings is, we're seeing like a lot of low engagement, and, sitting at a table in a stuffy room. So that's why, it's really encouraging to see that, even the city is starting to think outside the box, and through like the IONI process, there was funding for street outreach. So where that the CBOs can do pop-ups, on the corner. We can go to churches, and there's so many meetings going on. So it's also, instead of reinventing the wheel, it's plugging into these neighborhood community meetings, these church meetings, stuff that is already happening in the communities anyway. So we're not overtaxing, our people. So, and also providing incentives, is important, whether it's transportation incentive, you know, whether it's gift cards, it's like, you know, also it's part of paying people for their lived experience, for their cultural, their local expertise, and not saying, you know, give me your information time and time again for free. So with that, I will end there, and I think we're at time, and we can open it up for questions.
Are you guys a nonprofit organization, and how many are on your staff? Because I guess when I was thinking, like, you guys go out to the corner markets and things like that, like, how many people and who's all on your staff?
Yes, in addition to staff, us sometimes, again, groups come, like the Oregon group come and we'll have them assigned to certain things. But to answer your question, basically the coalition and collaboration, again, that's why we get into these collaborations and coalitions, because we are small and mighty. And so the neighborhood process that we're working in is 13 groups, and these 13 groups like vary across expertise. 3 other groups are capacity building type of groups. 2 of them are like youth focused. 2 of them is like urban greening. And so wherever we pop up at, we choose which groups know the area, which groups expertise that we're covering in content. So we basically collaborate with other East Oakland local groups to get out there, because we can't cover every topic. And instead of us trying to know everything about everything, we just bring those groups that's already experts in energy, in transportation, or things like that. And the city, OakDOT, shout out to OakDOT, they come out with us and provide technical expertise when needed as well. And we just tell them how we want to do it.
And we are a membership-based organization. We have 115 members who are primarily East Oakland residents, also residents across Oakland who are concerned about East Oakland, residents who've been displaced from East Oakland in Greater Oakland who live in neighboring cities. So,
for my neighborhood and my demographic, we don't have the best rapport with OPD. So most of the neighborhood crime prevention councils are attended by OGs, older residents, we call them OGs, who are invested and have their right of opinions, but are very older, traditional, and kind of one-sided. So most of the NCPCs are, again, one-sided, about 45 and up in attendance, and they just basically all of the nuances of people 45 and under, they want to see gone. But there's still a population in the group in our neighborhood. So within the UNI process, like we said, we pop up at churches and youth groups. We popped up at an NCPC. I've done this at an NCPC around the content that we've had in my area, B32X. We did it across the different neighborhoods. So we engage with the NCPCs, but it is OPD sponsored, so there's only so much we want to do there so it don't get co-opted.
So in my line of work, we manage the contracts with waste management. We deal with edible food recovery and distribution for new legislation that's coming online. And I have not been able to connect in East Oakland with someone. You know, I can go to a couple of churches, I can reach out, but at the end of the day, no one shows up to be part of the conversation. And I just have me. I don't have the ability to come and canvass the neighborhoods and call all over. So what is my thing? What is the thing that I need to do? What's my marching order to get information to the community? Our contract with Waste Management, because people don't realize, they're required to hire 50% of their workforce from Oakland. They did a recent recruitment, and they said they got 5,000 applications for the job, and only 60 were from Oakland. And I refuse to believe that Oakland does not have qualified residents at all levels, from the directorship all the way down to the truck driver, that could have been able to get these jobs. So I have to believe that you're not getting the information. I need to know how to get you information about things that are meaningful to you. I struggled to even get African American interns in my office to work for me, and they come in at a low pay, but we push them. We help them, we mentor them, we give them those opportunities, and we try our best to open doors for them, but we can't get them to come stay and work with us. So I need help. I'm hoping that you're going to tell me that there's something that I can do. There's a marching order. Here's who you contact, and we will get the word out. Something.
or that list might be short, but there are plenty of from churches to community groups that need to have that information. So like Keita said earlier, it's just about connecting with these different groups. And this problem that you're having is also why this needs to be in the budget. So when we have these budget requests, we need to hire organizers. We need to hire people whose job is to go out with the flyers, go out and email the leaders of these churches and institutions. You know, can we put it in your bulletin? Can we do pop-up hours? You know, you can come in our office, you know, and do pop-up hours, drop off flyers, do stuff like that, because we are at capacity. You know, a lot of us are at capacity and can't do this like street outreach and canvassing and stuff like that. But there are plenty of even youth. It's a great opportunity to employ youth to go out there and do the canvassing and the flyering, which is Nick does all the time. And now that we met you, you can always contact us. So we would definitely follow up with you, because there's plenty of organizations in East Oakland, from EOYDC to Youth Uprising to, you know, East Oakland Community Project, which is a shelter where people need that information and they are looking to be employed.
I just met a group called New Door Ventures, and they based in San Francisco, but they have some placement in Youth Uprising, which is in Deep East Oakland. And basically they do what you just mentioned. They find people like you and businesses and orgs who need employment, and they pay for certain interns to come and learn things, and they can end up getting a job doing whatever it is that you do. But they basically kind of like put the people together, and they reached me to ask to find people like you and other people to connect together. So if you follow up with us, I can give you that information.
And I was raised in East Oakland. I'm in back in North Oakland now, but trying to get back. But I'm also a community organizer in Northwest Oakland, and it's hard work. I mean, usually the city wants you to come, like you said, to city meetings, and you really have to get out there and hit the pavement. And you're establishing personal relationships with people that you wouldn't ordinarily even meet. And so we do the same thing. We go to churches, we pass out flyers, go door to door, and just spend an inordinate amount of time in the community talking to people. And that's really how you affect change, going and talking to people where they're at. And you meet people that you ordinarily would not have met. Maybe at the barber shop, those people live somewhere outside of East Oakland, maybe in North Oakland or West Oakland, but they have family in East Oakland, and so now you've reached those people. So I want to thank you for all the work you're doing for Oakland. I appreciate you guys. We're all Oakland natives, and I love the work you're doing. So thank you so much.
So, two things. Thank you for that work that you're doing. My mom actually did that work with East Bay Asian Youth Center, and I used to be in the car with her to go deliver food door to door with people. And that was one of the hardest things to do, was get people to go to the central location and pick up food. So the capacity there of having to do that is really hard. Two, one of the things of being a researcher for the digital services is that we discovered an untapped source, which is the ambassadors here in downtown Oakland. So if you do have something to give to them, flyers, they engage with the community here downtown. And the reason I know that is because I'm working with 311, and they want to get the word out about this service, and they don't realize that the ambassadors that are working at downtown at this wonderful hub, that everybody comes here. When I had to go to tech, I had to go here downtown, catch the 51, and go to tech, right? And so now they have people there. And, you know, that could be a good way to get the word out more, where you can just use this resource that, you know, they're already engaging with the community. But that was just for you, and I would like to engage with you a little bit further, because that's something that it is near and dear to my heart, and I would like to have a conversation with you. So the other part that I want to talk to you guys about is in terms of paying people for their time to provide feedback. You know, and I want to understand more about your structure, your considerations, and how much you pay. One of the things that I found in doing my research about how to pay, they're doing it by the minimum wage and dividing it by minute, by, you know, quarter minute and everything. And if I do a test with somebody and I ask them for 15 minutes of their time, that's just what, $10? And that would mean them coming here, me recording them and going through all of that. And so knowing all the things that you've mentioned, not only going to you, which I would love to also continue the conversation with you, but also thinking about the consideration in terms of payment. Because money is, you know, it's a tough thing to talk about, but, you know, I want to make sure that it is equitable, right? Their people are giving me their free, not advice, but they're giving me feedback to make the services, the digital stuff that I'm making better. And that's valuable. That is so valuable, because then we can reach more people because that's what they're on their phone. But I'm trying to find the right, at least the perspective, the lens that will guide my path forward for that, payment structure that I'm looking for.
I mean, that's a huge, issue, and what we grapple with all the time is how to compensate people, for their expertise, and for their time. That requires usually a larger budget than most of the pots that we're working with. So, but we strive to get there where we can actually pay people, per the minute or like per the hour. If we do small focus groups, we're able to do that. But for our larger meetings and our community engagement is usually providing incentives. And that could be a form of a gift card, could be a form of transportation reimbursement. What other things that we do sometimes? Yeah, always food. Food is hands down because we like to eat and we know everybody else does too. Yeah, definitely food, hands down.
That's pretty much what we've covered right now. If we have more money, or just, I guess, kind of like just can mention more things in the planning world, it would be cool to, we get called the local experts of our community all the time. So I really don't have an answer on like technically on how to break down the pay structure, but what's valuable to me is the essence of not the 15 minutes I spent with you, but that valuable experience that I shared with you. And so, yeah, how to put a price point on valuable experiences, I can't necessarily answer, but we can just continue to stress that people need to be paid stipends or whatever for focus groups when they're sitting down talking to folks. Definitely transportation. You can figure out how much it costs to get from here to East Oakland. I just pay $15 on Lyft or whatnot, which again is a barrier out of my own pocket or whatnot. That I came down here yesterday, and I got every week, and so transportation definitely, and I guess being strategically and being realistic and looking at where people are actually coming from and things like that. Don't just give them a one rate for everybody. Like just try to look more specific, place based and individual based on what's going on.
So we now have a city council that likes us and that listens to us. And so I just approached Councilperson Calv's office when they were asking community members to come in and make budgetary suggestions. And so for the neighborhood plan that I'm working on in Northwest Oakland, I said, look, the city gave us a dedicated city planner, but they didn't give us any money. And we need to do community outreach. We've been hitting the pavement. We need to pay people stipends, and we need some help. And so they did give us money. So it's in the budget. Hopefully all the council will pass it. But we did get like $50,000 for this year and next year, and that's going to help us tremendously. So when the next elections come up, we got to get some of these people out of office and get people in here who support the community and who will give us money to do what we need to do. Because there's a lot of council members who are looking at developers, and they're not looking at Oaklanders. I'm just going to be real. They really don't give a damn about Oaklanders, and we need to say, look, we want you out of office. These three people we got in, they're listening to us. They're giving us money. So that's another option.
What I'm personally tired of not being paid for is people coming to East Oakland saying, we want to know your priorities. Tour me around East Oakland. Show me sites, this and this and that. And I guess I should be thankful that it can translate to, I guess it's seen that we should be thankful that it's a potential opportunity that can translate to something else. But I don't have all of that time and capacity for potential translation of things. Like when you're on the dollar, you're on a salary getting paid. We're not. And so if you come to East Oakland and you want to know about East Oakland, I don't care if you Spurg, they came down there, anybody, you need to pay us to tour you around because our time is valuable and we don't have the organizational capacity as these organizations and agencies.
Keita just took the words out of my mouth because it's like not only is it's an issue of paying or compensating, residents for their expertise, but also compensating the CBOs and the other leaders for their expertise. So we do a lot of stuff for free, or where we're undercompensated. And we're expected to do a lot of community engagement and a lot of work for a very small budget. And that's why I'm glad that it was, it's a topic, on this particular talk was about compensation and was about what is actually needed to be included when we ask in these budget asks, about community engagement and outreach. That's really like a few $1,000s for like a year project. That's not enough. That's not enough for you, print stuff, with. So it's, how much money does it really take to have resident input, which leads to resident leadership and empowering people, and there's probably really not, a concrete dollar amount, but it needs to be more. So when we're doing these budget asks, when we're working with CBOs and community leaders and residents, we need to really take all this into consideration.
What are the civic issues that are relevant to the people that like you live with, that you work with? Like what city council is talking right now, like so with like just legalizing psychedelics, potholes. I'm trying to think of other stuff. The like triplex landlord living in there and exemption. Like I'm thinking of the stuff that city council's been talking about, but I'd love to know, like, is that the stuff? Do people think that's the stuff that matters to them? Is there stuff that might matter to them, but they don't know it, and you have to show them how it actually affects them? Bike lanes, like, I'm really curious about like what matters to people, and is it the stuff that city council is working on?
Really quickly, I'm gonna give it to Keita to go in on this one. Yes and no. I think what is presented at City Council is just a small, subset of what the entire community is actually, really cares about and engaged in. We know the homelessness crisis is pretty much, probably top of the list because it's what people see. It's in front of your face, it's next door to you, you drive by it, everything like that. So it is a hot topic and it's super pressing. And then there's tons of other stuff that are affecting, different communities, across Oakland. So the city council can only do so much and they only know so much. That's why these community processes, are important, so that the community can say, this is what, we are concerned with. And I'll pass it to Keita, who I guess shout out some issues.
Yeah, definitely. I think the stuff that's been talked about in city council is like surface level related to what's going on in the community, but definitely we don't see it. We see how it could help, but it never works out that way in terms of the bureaucracy. So what's really going on the ground, what people care about besides housing and the homelessness, is really the number one want is to really just be able to have a neighborhood, to just really have an actual comprehensive neighborhood and have that feeling of community. We say it all the time, but some people out there, they don't have no sense of community. We just say the word a lot, but some people feel like it's me up out here and, I need to get what I can get because of certain parameters they've been limited to. And so that's number one thing from doing these neighborhood initiatives, is seeing that people really want a comprehensive neighborhood that they can call their own and walk to things just like people in Uptown and Lower District and things like that. Civically, what's really going on, it's a lot. So we focus on wealth. I'm gonna go to home ownership for a second. Yeah, so the parks is ran down. Also, you want Pacific's parks is ran down. You would think that Oakland don't have parks the way that parks come up so much in the neighborhood meetings. It's just that they unmaintained. I have a park I can walk to, but instead I go to San Leandro, which is I'm on the borderline in San Leandro, but still, I got to go 15 minutes to that park instead of taking my godson 5 minutes to the park, which is Elmhurst Park right next to me on 98th and C Street, because it's just it's not maintained. It's a lot of activity going on there, and that's because of the other social issues that's not being taken care of. So now that population is taking over the parks, which I feel like should be open to the youth or whatnot, but we can't just leave those people to the side as well. So the parks is a big thing. Open space, period. People just need open space, performance space. They want to just have space. That's what I'm saying in the neighborhood. People want space to do and be. Right now, we get cited for congregating. Out here I used to work and intern here too. People hung outside. I saw people hang outside every day, my people, every day. And it was always somebody coming by to say something to them. And all they want to do is hang out, play a little music or whatever. Sometimes they get a little crazy, but for the most part, people just hanging out. And they just want to be able to be them. And black people, we really like to be around natural environmental spaces, contrary to what people think or whatnot. Like, we like to be not just at the lake. We like water. We've grown up. It's been part of our actual natural and ancestral way to be one and live with the land. And we've been stripped from that. And so we really yearn for open space and environmental space where we can authentically be us. Right now, that's only the lake. And so we from East Oakland. And so there's a big, right, and we know what happened at the lake. So there's a desire to really enhance and restore the MLK shoreline, which could be a better jewel than the Lake Merritt if it get the proper attention. But with caution in doing that, making sure that we there right now. And I used to have my family reunions there, and so it saddens me that we took our family reunion all the way to Hayward because now the MLK shoreline is unmaintained, is boring. in terms of the kids, we have to bring everything there. So yeah, that's kind of when I'm talking about neighborhoods, parks, and things like that. But when we talk about home ownership, wealth, again, I got family that own 3 homes in Oakland, and one of them we just got cited by building inspectors and PG&E because of some things. But long story short, low-income families don't have the money for home improvement like these other higher income areas or things like that. So now that all of this stuff is happening, and now that the planning department want to be on their things about regulations and inspections and things like that, now my family getting cited for proper structures that was put in the 30s before we even got the property. We got that property when black people wasn't even allowed in East Oakland, and my great grandma got it from working with a white woman, worked, paid it off, and then the white woman put it in her name. And so that structure, that house looked like that our whole life. And so now we're being cited for all this whatever, got to pay these $1,000s of permits around this time of gentrification. And when the city say they want to make stuff more equitable, well, to me that's not equitable. It's that we dealing with an issue that happened in the 30s, and now my family has to pay. My auntie that stay in that house got 4 kids or whatnot and work for the welfare office at Eastmont. And so that's just a kind of micro level on some of the civic issues. It's plenty of them, like we said, from housing, retail, we can go without saying. People, there's a lot of need for the young giggers and entrepreneurs out in the East to get more resources. Oakland got a Fab City initiative going on. We're trying to manufacture everything locally by 2054. So we should be leveraging the people that we already make everything for ourselves, by ourselves. So being able to streamline that and do it and scale it up a bit would help. We got a lot of vacant storefronts along our boulevards and things like that, converting that to live work spaces, live work for us. Again, when people think live work, we think of tech and all other things. And so right now our community is very traumatized of just the symbolism of gentrification. So new development scares them, period. So massaging that and trying to make sure that it really culturally represents them is important. So I can't just come in and say, if I tell them about a park, even though they know the park needs to be done, if we talk about getting this park done, they're scared that somebody else, sorry, but it looks like you, is gonna come in and may not be culturally relevant or, had the morals to live in a space and cohabitat with the people that's already there, like they should. So it's a bit hard. So I mean, the big civic engagement is just a lack of understanding of what gentrification is and how it's impacting us. I think is a big barrier for a lot of us, even some of us that's in this work. The definition is kind of broad, so how we attacking it and how it actually affects us, I think sometimes is missed, and that's why what's happening in City Hall and what's needed on the ground don't always seem to directly work together. Sorry for that.
Yeah, I was just going to add Yuba. I was just going to add part of the disconnect between the community and what's happening at City Hall. It's a translation thing. A lot of people don't even know what affects them and how it affects them. So to be able to disseminate information to them, especially the way it comes out of City Hall, most people are like, I don't know what the hell that means. Not knowing that it directly affects them. So we've tried to do a good job or a job of trying to translate some of that stuff to get people to see how it affects them. We used to have a series called First Fridays through the Black Cultural Zone to where some of that stuff needed to be translated to where people could understand how it affects their lives. I think a lot of that stuff is intentional. I think stuff comes out from government, period, to be confusing on purpose, to get you to vote for one thing when you're voting for something else that just happens that way. So to be able to make that really plain in layman's terms, I speak in layman's terms on purpose whenever I'm talking about things. I don't use buzzwords on purpose so people can understand the very basic bottom line thing of everything. I think if information came out of City Hall that way to the people, then people can make an informed decision on things. So that's part of the huge disconnect. People don't know what the hell is coming out of City Hall.
I want to take back to my community relations department and my colleagues who are working in East Oakland. Just curious about your relationship with the libraries there. And if you do have a relationship, and if there's anything, I'm also on our recent equity committee. That's really part of the reason why I'm here. If you have anything, feedback that I can take back to them about what we can be doing better with working with you all, or how, if there's an opportunity to connect. And even if I need to come afterward, I can have more of a conversation. But I wanted to hear that. Thanks.
So we definitely have a relationship with the libraries. It can be more of a relationship. I know some of your colleagues follow our newsletter and stuff like that. I have sat on, several committees and stuff with some of your colleagues. And I like what, shout out to the skateboard bike team. I like what they're doing with the shed at, was it 60? Yeah, 81st Library and MLK Library. So it's kind of like, this community group partnership, with the library. So those particular spots, attract youth, to the libraries. And, skateboard bike team is one of my favorite, orgs in Oakland, and especially East Oakland. So we work with them closely. But yeah, there's definitely room for us to do more collaboration. We have hosted many Yoni meetings at several different libraries. So doing stuff like that more, would definitely help. I want to actually give kudos to the libraries. I see you guys as, list of events, and so there's way more events now at Oakland Public Libraries than it was when I was growing up. I think it's probably just like across the board, getting that information out to people, and we're happy to work with you guys on doing that.
Everything that Candace just said. I'm from the 80s, and so it's Elmhurst Libraries over there, and I feel like people don't know a lot about. We haven't worked with Elmhurst Library much yet because it's in the cuts and people don't even really know that it exists. It's across the street from Food King, which is about to now be redeveloped. So, this is not really feedback on how you can get more of our word out, but I would like to connect and just find out what's going on at Elmhurst Library and how we can just highlight that library more, because if you pass by, it look like a house, and you'll miss it with the blink of an eye. So I would like to highlight that library some more, because it's in the deep.
Well, I want to thank Nick, Keita, and Candace for coming. We certainly are not compensating them enough, given the topic of the conversation, but we really deeply appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion, to bring people together around something that's a shared passion of the folks in the room. Thank you so much. So I'll give them a round of applause.